And welcome everyone to Tech Talk Friday. Yes, that's the quickest introduction I can do right now, but welcome again. And this is our usual 6 p.m. digest of tech in Malaysia, and maybe to try to reach to across the world. And thank you so much for everybody who's joining us. If you caught our preview, you know what we're going to talk about today. But if you didn't, we actually have two individuals somehow rather, and Karam would like to say that the gods of startup kind of put things all aligned to have us a good show today. So we actually have two people who actually does have some partnership in some way or form. We will mention that later on. So it's going to be a great tech conversation this Friday, and hope you're joining us no matter where you are, whether you're joining us from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Great to have you with us. Remember, the comment section is there for you. Use that. And also, not to forget, the show is brought to you by Necole. And if you want to get your Necole right now, you can go on to Necole.app, and there's a promo code on the scroller at the bottom, Roshan T Lead 30, where you get 30% off. And Necole is your gateway to actually increasing or accelerating your skill, your growth, your development, your future, and hopefully your career. So go check out Necole at Necole.app. And of course, the show is not just done by me alone. And I think today, depending on whether he's already sorted out his camera issues, we are going to have Karam in spirit and voice only. So can we bring the spirit and voice of Karam into the show? There you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So spirit and voice of Karam is in presence.
Yeah. I got my technical support.
And then mic also cuts off already. What is going on, Karam? What is happening? So Karam is sorting out some technical issues.
I was saying that no, because I got my very reluctant 18-year-old tech support here to try to help me, and as he's fiddling with the cable to connect it to the camera, so the mic will automatically mute itself sometimes. But anyway, I'm here for sure in voice, and maybe in video also shortly.
In videos socially. And Karam, I have to say, I'm not generalizing, but which tech support is not reluctant?
I don't know about that.
All right. So let's get into it, Karam. Let's see what is the pick of the week from DNA this week. And it's this story. MDEC moves forward with digital investments Future 5 strategy. DIF 5 strategy will lead Malaysia to become a globally competitive digital nation. Attention on cloud computing, data center, AI, cybersecurity, and digital content tools. All key buzzwords, but what does this mean exactly, Karam? Karam? Hello? Karam has disappeared again. So while we wait for Karam to come back, I do want to mention that do drop by Digital News Asia so that you can catch all the most recent news on the world of tech. So Karam's back. There you go.
Okay. No. So this is big news, right? That the fact that they have announced a new, DeFi, right? Kind of interesting. DIF 5. But then if you have a bit too much of Shandy, it'll become DEFY, right? Defy. I defy you.
Karam, Shandy, really? Shandy. Of all things, Shandy.
Absolutely, Shandy. This Indian is a teetotaler and proud of it.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, thank God it's after 5:30. So Guinness market, GAB market shares won't drop, cannot drop.
Okay. So yeah,
that's why we have the show after 6 o'clock, after the market closes.
Exactly.
Okay, no. So getting to this now. Look, this is a very interesting story. Just because this is, I think MDEC has not made such a big announcement before, right? That I remember in the last year plus at least. So that's why we decided to look at this. And what was interesting was that, and a number of people have also commented to me on this, is that it just seems like, first of all, the chairman has always been quoted in any MDEC press release, right? And this mega release about their focus on FDI to coming into the country and all, it doesn't have his comment there. It doesn't have Surina's quote also. And I asked them, so I sent them a bunch of follow-up questions, and they came up, their replies were 2,500 words long. So I got to digest and ingest and try to synthesize it before I write my article. I was going to do my commentary for it today, and it would have been a blistering commentary, but I'm going to refrain myself and digest what they've said, right? So really, look, you've got a big initiative out where you talk about 5 vertical industry sectors, and these are agriculture, okay, health, you call it health tech, right? Health tech, agriculture, and then you've got education. Sorry, while my tech support is doing this, so I'm back now. So, oh no, thank God I have my shirt on, man. Woo! Woo! Okay.
No, Karam, I don't want to see that image. I don't want to even have that image in my head, please.
No. So anyway, because I'm going to go for my jab after this right away. And I thought my mood was bloody, right? So I said, in case blood spills, I'll just blend with my shirt, so I don't freak out.
Karam, they're using a needle. They're not using a knife.
I don't know. So if you've got a phobia about syringes, any needle is like, super size, right?
Okay, back to topic.
So 5 industry verticals, and let me see, it's a Islamic digital economy together with fintech. You talk about Islamic digital economy. It's not Islamic fintech. They've labeled this, they've lumped it together with fintech. So how is it logical to lump in the whole of Islamic digital economy together with fintech, right? This is one. And then you've got health tech, you've got agriculture, you've got clean tech, okay? Which is industry that we are decent in, we are not great in, and there's a 5th one, but I won't belabor it, and then they've got 5 emerging technologies and 5 focused technologies. In the emerging technologies, they have something called, and you can read the article, right? And I think there'll be another article. Hopefully, I run for tomorrow, if not Monday, but I hope it's going to be tomorrow. They're talking about extended reality, okay? And I know what virtual reality is. I know what mixed reality is, augmented reality. But here, extended reality was said. So I called up 2 companies that are probably leaders in this space, and neither of them has been reached out by MDEC before this happened. So I say, hey, if they are not communicating with industry before, producing such a big statement of intent, right? DIF, DIF 5, not DEFY. I'm getting confused myself here now. But who are they talking to come up with this, right? Why do they think we can be strong in this vertical? So I was frustrated. I was a bit upset because I felt like this was clumsily done. It's like my 18-year-old son. Hey, I'll pay you 1,000 ringgit, and your eyes will pop up. Wow, 1,000 ringgit, and you've got 3 full days to do this and come up with something where all the killer technology make it sound cool. And because this is MDEC, right? We expect they have data already. So if you're saying that we're going to focus on extended, reality, tell us what is the baseline, right? Look, we've got 4 companies in this space, but in Southeast Asia, the market is this much. We think we've got opportunity to accelerate in 5 years, right? Blockchain, blockchain. Okay, I would say blockchain is not an emerging technology, but actually it is, because AI was being talked about 20 years ago, right? So this phrase, emerging technology, doesn't mean that it just came out in the last 24 months, right? So fine. So at least say, look, we've got this cluster of like 18 blockchain companies, and we want to focus on them, and we want to maybe make it into 40, by the end of 2025. And we want to, among these 18, we're going to try to push some to become regional champions. There's nothing at all very vague. So it's very frustrating for people like me, and not like me, and some other ecosystem leaders also who are frustrated with this announcement. What's going on? Right. And at the high level, hey, why isn't the chairman sharing a supporting code, CEO sharing a supporting code? And if you go and check their LinkedIn and their Twitter, because Surina and the chairman are active on Twitter, until now, they have not shared a tweet about, DIF 5. Why is that? And then I asked MTech, why isn't any of the senior leadership team even, retweeted and shared on LinkedIn? They should be going to town with this. They haven't. So, and look, they're working for all of us, right? There's nothing personal here. They're working for all of us. You expect 110% because our politics is toxic and incompetent, right? Many world-class ministers who think there are 500 countries in the world and all that. So it is a added responsibility to all those guys who run our agencies to do even better than more, do more than more, right? So I was frustrated to see it, but I will come up with an article tomorrow, I hope, and I don't want to write when I'm angry and frustrated, so I got to cool down. So hopefully my article comes out tomorrow, if not, it's on Monday, talking about, all these things. And just now somebody messaged me just before, hey, Karam, I saw your comment on LinkedIn, a lot of polite, statements, but I agree with you that, this just doesn't sound right. So anyway, that enough. let's get on our two guests. And I know they want to talk about it a bit, so I hope so. I hope they're as frustrated and as passionate and animated, as concerned as I am. Because I'm being passionate, concerned, frustrated for all 32 million Malaysians and the 6 million illegal and legal migrant workers also.
And Karam's mood is exactly like his shirt right now, blood red at the moment. So, Karam, on that note also, on that note also, I wanted to tell you, don't make fun of your 18-year-old son, because he just helped you with the camera, Sorry. and quickly, I just wanted to mention the comments area. Yeah. So wherever you're joining us, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, please drop a comment. Whether you want to share your mood with us, like Alberto here, who's saying good morning, Alberto, and like Shaji, who's like, Shaji already saying, Karam, cool down, man.
These people are working for us, bro. They are all getting like 25,000 ringgit or more salary, right? That's 300,000 ringgit a year minimum. How many Malaysians even earn that much? They should be working more plus more.
Karam, I need your son's contact right now, because I'm going to ask him to come pour water on you a bit. Cool you down a bit. Okay, so use the comments area. Comment, leave your comment at us. We'll bring it up. We'll mention it. And if you have any questions for our guests as we talk to them, it'd be great as well, because it's good not for us just to ask the question. It's good for you to ask the question as well. So let's move on to our guests today. So we're going to start with the first one. And I actually had the chance to talk to him about 2 weeks ago. We were talking about a few things. I was really interested in what he's doing, especially his business and also in the tech space. So this I got off straight from the website and also their LinkedIn page and what they're building, which is building financial inclusiveness, health, and behavior development for children, and not just in Malaysia, across Southeast Asia. So let's bring on Gokula Krishnan Subramaniam, founder and CEO of Vircle.
Hey guys, hi Nigesh, hi Karam, nice to meet you guys.
Hi Gokula, nice to have you with us. Nice to have you with us. Okay, let's get into the meat of it. And when we had that chat 2 weeks ago, you were explaining to me about Vircle. You dub it a fintech solution centered or focused around health and society, but there is this whole nature of entitlement in there. I see that word a lot, entitlement, the way that it's used, and it's coming from the advertising and marketing space. So maybe just for the rest of us to understand what Vircle is about, what was the problem you kind of identified that kind of led you down this road and motivated you to create this solution that is Vircle?
Okay, thanks, Nigesh. So interestingly, so I'm a father of 2 kids. And like all parents, we want the best for our kids, right? I mean, I think on one end, kids, they get a lot of learning and skills from schools, predominantly academic achievements. But both me and my co-founder Paresh, we're also very passionate about life skills. Now, 3 areas that we are very passionate about was money management, health and wellness, and character development. And let's not try to hide the fact that kids are not necessarily the best in these skills because nobody spends effective time teaching them the skills. Now, let's just take one of these, money management, right? If you look at Malaysia, let's look at our adult population. More than 80% Malaysian adults don't have more than 3 months of savings in the kitty, right? And this is really a very poor prognosis and made worse by COVID-19, right? Now, if you take this in the context of kids, right? We have about close to 8 million children under 18 in Malaysia. Most of them don't transact digitally. Majority of them don't have bank accounts. And parents have no clue how kids are spending or saving for that matter, right? But in reality, kids are experiencing money ever more digitally today. I mean, whether it's on e-commerce, Roblox, spending using their parents' e-wallets or accidentally buying game credits using their parents' accounts, right? So they're experiencing money, but they are not learning, right? Now, we are very familiar, especially Karam, you should be familiar with this whole term digital native, right? We use that a lot to address the millennials, the Gen Zs. But if you look at the kids of today under 18, they are part of what I would say the cashless native generation. Okay. Now, but you live in a cashless native generation, but you still need to walk into a bank to open a bank account. Bank accounts don't give parental controls to safely, let kids transact digitally. or any mechanism to protect a bank account should the parent give kids access to all the money in the bank account, right? So nobody's building tech or regulations around how do you let kids embrace the world of cashless in a safe way. And this was a problem big enough for us to solve, because by solving this problem, we have the relationship with parents and kids, and we can start addressing the other big concerns that we have around health and character development, right? Because let's face it, everyone spends money today. Every kid gets pocket money. Now, how do we build financial literacy as a foundation, and from there go up to health and wellness, right? So that's what Vircle is all about. We are a neobank aspirant, so the idea is to build a digital bank which is focused on kids, teaching them how to spend, save responsibly, and also go cashless in a very safe way under the controls of parents. Now, it's not easy to build something like this, especially when nobody else out there has done it before. So when we first mooted this idea, the biggest challenge was nobody's done it in Malaysia, nobody done it in Southeast Asia. Going through the whole regulatory approval to build the tech to be child safe was probably one of our biggest hurdles that we overcame and finally launched.
Right. So I got a question. When you were mentioning all that, I'm trying to imagine, how does it actually work per se? I know you kind of said the concept and what was the problem you're trying to solve. So let's say a kid has this, let's say Vircle is a tool or app or something like that. How exactly does it work? Like where is the parent's involvement? What does the kid do? How does it exactly work?
Okay, so underlying technology in the app is an e-wallet. Okay, but the parent owns the wallet, but the parents can have multiple kids to consume of the wallet. So we're very familiar with the traditional e-money where you own the account, you bring your mobile device and you spend, right? And regulatory-wise, you should be 18 years and above to have your own account because you can't enter a contract below 18. Now, we built the first wallet which allows multiple parties to consume out of the wallet. But that also meant that going through different levels of compliance to make sure how the parent's money is safe and the child can only spend what the parent entitles, back to your question, the child to spend. So that's where the whole concept of the entitlement comes in, because we had to build that whole secure encrypted layer that allows the parents to say, okay, even if I have $10,000 in my wallet, child A can only spend $20 tomorrow at this shop. Or this child B, he's old, I'm going to give her $400 approval, can spend for the whole month, right? So that was the core of the IP that we built. And to validate that, we decided to use schools as our first market segment.
Right. And a follow-up from that, you kind of mentioned very early that as adults here in Malaysia, our financial literacy is not exactly the best as well. So parents kind of fall into that trap as well, right? So how does this ecosystem support even the parents? Because what if the parents do not know how to use these tools well to actually help the kids? So do you have something for that?
Yeah, I mean, so first thing, there is several aspects of Vircle service that we launch in phases, right? The spending and spending control is the first. The saving comes next. So now that you get digital allowances, you also get digital piggy bank. So some part of the allowance goes to your piggy bank. Right. And then, of course, you have the earn module where you can do tasks, take up missions, and your parents can reward you for doing that. So you get some sense of responsibility. Now, the second part is actually educating parents how to use these tools. So that's something that we plan to introduce in more detail through the app in phases, right? Now, the biggest challenge that we saw and overcame was, when you build any tech, typically when you launch the tech, it's the first movers that use it. The tech savvy, they know how to do it. They just download, they figure out how to use it and so on, right? Now, the fact that we took schools as our launch route initially to validate the tech. Now, when a school implements Vircle, they go 100% cashless. Now, when you get 100% of the parents to go cashless, they're not all digitally savvy, right? You have those who are tech savvy and those who are not tech savvy. So the onus is actually on us to build the tech to make it as simple, easy, and palatable as possible for a parent to use. And because of that, I mean, we spend a lot of time speaking to customers and actually getting their feedback on the user experience. So since we went live July last year, we've actually changed the user experience 2 times based on input from parents. And each time we launch something, we actually run a closed group of parents from a particular school, new school that's coming. And we try them, okay, you go and try this, register, here are the steps. And once you sort of got got them on board, then we see in the most recent one, no parents came to us and told us, hey, I don't know how to do this.
Right.
So then we have a feedback session and say what was good, what was not good. We take the suggestions and we continuously iterate. That's how you build a product that's no reference out there to copy from, right?
Right. And that's good to hear, because we rarely get a chance to talk to somebody who kind of goes through this process of when you create something new, what are all the considerations here? Because you have your addressable market, but there's an ecosystem in the market as well. And you got to ensure that ecosystem can use it, else your solution is not going to be used. But speaking of which, you mentioned quite a few times already that you are either the first or one of the first creating something that doesn't exist here in Malaysia or in Southeast Asia. There must have been a huge leap. And I remember you telling me the story the last time that you had a good job. You had a very comfortable job. You were a senior leader in a company, in an advertising company. And what possessed you to go through that, and the kind of challenges that you faced actually trying to build this business?
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's quite interesting. So I actually met Karam first many years ago. He probably doesn't recognize me, but so I used to work for a Swedish company called Ericsson.
Yeah.
And I used to run Ericsson's broadcast and media business for Asia Pac, right? Corporate world is corporate world, right? Eventually, at some point, you have this burning desire to, do something different. That's part of your passion, right? Now, starting up when you're young is very different, because you can fail, try again, you have nothing to lose. Now, starting up in your fourth series is very foolish to some extent, but also something very high risk, in the sense that you need to make sure you have all the thought process properly ironed out, because you can't afford to fail. You have kids to feed and so on, right? The other big lesson learned is when you're dealing with a tech which is new, regulated, always expect things to get worse or fail 10 times before you can get that right. Because nobody can predict regulators. So we went to the stage that when we started this concept, nobody wanted to fund us. Nobody believed in us. They even told us Bank Negara will never approve such a service like this, and so on. So I self-funded this with my, with whatever savings I had. And because regulations took too long, we sort of at one point ran out of money, sold assets, we pulled whatever money we could get within the management team, because we felt that we need to launch. We cannot fail. We need to launch. When we launch, people see us and they will invest in us. And that's exactly what happened. So I would say resilience is critical. And, I'm probably one of those who've sort of experienced moving from potentially a T20 taxpayer to a B40, no salary, 1 year, struggling kind of a thing. It's not easy, but I would say that, the outcome has been very positive. Now from our customers, our parents, our schools, and to me, it's no turning back. I mean, no pain, no gain, right? If you got so much money early stage in a startup, what you do is you start spending. But with having less money, you actually become more creative in how you spend and make sure you hit certain milestones, right? And I think that's what differentiates us, starting from a more bootstrap mode versus getting some rich parent or funder to come in and precede us from day one.
Right. And before I move to that last question, which kind of links to quite a few things you mentioned there, Karam, do you have anything you want to burningly ask? Because I see you doing this.
No. I mean,
going on.
Every sorry, bro, I don't recognize you. So once upon a time, but I guess a lot of entrepreneurs, when they first start out, especially whether you're young or you're in your 40s, and I started in my 40s, right? You definitely will not take salary. That's standard, I didn't take salary for over 2 years and it's a very interesting experience. It's almost like going on a hunger strike, right? For a cause you believe in. At some point, it is a very strange feeling. But I would not encourage people to experience it loud. If you can avoid it, if you do, it's a very interesting experience. And you can say, look, I've experienced different facets of life, right? To experience that. And then when my investor wanted to come in, he said, hey, you got to start taking salary, because if you don't take, the cost structure of the company is distorted. And I thought, wow, that's interesting for him to say that, right? So I took like 60% of what I'm taking now. So I started slow because you're scared, right? Shit, man, you got no, because you are responsible for paying salaries. So, but my point is that all entrepreneurs or the vast majority actually go through this. And I think it's a very humbling and it's a very powerful experience. You need to, I think. Yeah.
Very humbling, I would say.
Yeah. Indeed. And so moving on to that question that I had, and you mentioned about regulation from Bank Negara, and you told me the story also that you were waiting for it, but that took some time and you had to launch. But this June, Bank Negara came out with this, and there's a proposal, a new regulation governing e-money license. So how's that going to affect Vircle?
Yeah, so quite interestingly, previously there were a lot of technology companies who were selling closed-loop prepaid cards, which sat outside the regulatory framework. Now, in the new proposed regulations, what central bank is trying to do is to basically start to regulate this industry. And this actually works really well for us because there are a lot of schools who have these closed-loop payment systems. Now they have to be regulated as a limited e-money issuer, which means they need to start, submitting annual reports to central bank and following the central bank rules. No schools want to do it. And that's kept us busy in the last few weeks because a lot of these schools who are using these prepaid cards, they said, look, I don't want to deal with central bank anymore. And we are actually the only viable alternative that's regulated, child safe, with all the tools to manage cashless in school that exists in the country. So in a way, I think the regulation is good, both for us and also to make sure, people don't abuse this whole concept of closed loop licensing, which has been prevalently unregulated before. So it's good. I think regulation to some extent helps us to make sure there's no misuse, right?
Right, it does. And I guess you got the lucky draw on the dice on this one because sometimes or most of the time when a regulation gets introduced, most entrepreneurs are kicking up their hands and like, oh God, here goes something.
For us, even COVID-19 has been really helpful. On one end, of course, schools are closed, which we don't like. But the other end, with now scientific evidence of the virus living on nodes for up to a few weeks, a lot of schools, parents don't want kids to carry cash, right? So in the sense that we provide an alternative that's super low cost for schools to deploy very quick.
And that's great. And I think this gives a perfect segue. And Gokula, thank you so much for answering all these questions. But we're going to kind of segue this with a question to you because the next guest, somehow, Karam found out that it happened. This is the startup gods working in mysterious ways. And you are now part of this program, and it's the program from Endeavor. They don't call it accelerator. Karam told me that. They call it a program. So what actually led you to actually get involved with this? And what's your hope in this partnership with Endeavor?
In general, as entrepreneurs, when we seek out help from mentors, right, there's a few things you look for: access for market, access to funding, access to talent, and access to advice. I think one of the key things about Endeavor is it's like a paid forward organization where you actually get direct access to CEOs, mentors, and other founders, which this knowledge is very valuable. Running a corporate regional organization is very different than being an entrepreneur running a startup with your own money, right? The experiences are very different. And through Endeavor, we look forward to actually meeting a lot of these corporate mentors and also other startup mentors that we can sort of bounce ideas of, okay, if I want to go to this country and that country, which is part of our plans, what are your advice? What do you think we should do? How did you address that? And Adlin and team, they're the best guys to connect us and guide us through this process.
All right. And speaking of which, I think this is the perfect time, Shashi, who's our producer, to bring in Adlin Yusman, Managing Director of Endeavor Malaysia. You actually didn't have to take down Gokula straight away, but never mind. Adlin is here already. and before we start, Adlin, I kind of want to bring up this comment from Eva Lim. And Gokula, this is actually to you, right? Sashi, can you bring it up? All right. It's inspiring to see how passionate and determined you are upon executing your mission despite all the obstacles. So good job on that, Gokula. We'll have you back again at the end of the show. Adlin, welcome. I was just commenting about all the music setup you had behind there, which is awesome. And great to have you with us. And I think Karam has been biting at his nails, ready to ask you some questions right now. So Karam, already
Wait, I'm going to ask Karam my question first.
Go.
If you're going to get jabbed, why are you wearing long sleeve, bro?
Wah, betul.
Are you gonna like sexy like that or what? You know?
Yeah, lah. I want to do a bit of a striptease, right? And to tell them that I take it seriously, right? So I'm taking it seriously. So I did figure that out, but turn it to my advantage, lah. And they will say, "Wow, nobody has ever come in a long sleeve shirt. They remember me." How about that?
These are things I don't want to imagine, but unfortunately, this has now been burned into my head. Karam, go. Take it.
So, okay, bro, Adlin. So I've known Adlin for a long time, and in fact, Adlin may or may not remember this. I met up with them, outside a shopping mall once in PJ, where they are just locked in their seed, investment. Very excited. And they got a call from one of the top investors in Southeast Asia, and all three of them were like, it's like the phone was like a super hot item, like, hey, you answer, it's him calling. He wants to know whether he can invest, and you already taken someone else's investment. So that's one of the memories I'll always take away with me, Adlin. The three of you all being excited and scared at the same time. How do you tell him that you've already taken someone else's money? So all cool. So for all of you out there, the startup space is very exciting. Adlin was there with his own, on-demand startup, Be Malas. And, there's sometimes you can be ahead of your time, right? And it was at that point, we didn't know then, we thought perfectly timed your first mover, but ended up being that they were ahead of their time, along with others also. They were not the only ones who failed. So, but Adlin has taken that failure, and there's so many lessons you learn from that, and moved on to a whole bunch of other things, right? Till he's in this position now. So brings with him a wealth of experience. So Adlin, the first question is, of course, and you understand this well, right? What is the pain point that Endeavor Malaysia is trying to solve, and do they feel like they are succeeding?
Okay, so I will share. You brought this in perfectly, right? So the issue with entrepreneurs, especially first-time entrepreneurs, is that you don't know the good from the bad, right? You don't know what you don't know. And most of the time, you think if someone wants to give you money, you think, wow, that's great. That means I'm validated, right? Even though you haven't proven your business.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the problem is there's a very thin line between thinking you're good and then drinking your own Kool-Aid and thinking you know everything already, right? Because people are calling you, right? So then the press is writing about you. People are giving you money, forcing you to take the capital. But there was no one around me to tell me, what's the truth, right? Are you really good? Are you chasing rainbows here? Are you really doing a business that's sustainable? We didn't have mentors, and that was the biggest problem I had. I think all of my co-founders at the time realized that we basically swam in the dark. We tried to ask for help, but the reality is, in 2015, the question of, is that person going to help me, or is that person going to steal my idea, was still very much nascent, right? Because there were not that many startups. There may be 4, 5, 6 guys who all got funded, and they're all very scared to share VC names, right? Because if I give you my VC name, then I cannot raise lah. Then susah, right? So that's the problem we had. So I encountered Endeavor in 2015, right? So my first experience was the first time I saw an LSP session, right, which is the local selection panel, where all the mentors are grilling guys live, and we could stand by as observers, and I was mind blown, right? These were seasoned CEOs and mentors that were literally telling straight to the founder's face, your business sucks. And some people take it, some people don't take it, right? But the ones that took it managed to transform their business, and some of them are here today as successful entrepreneurs. Of course, successful is a huge barometer of measurement, but the reality is a lot of the mentorship, a lot of the guidance, and a lot of the support structure that Endeavor provided these entrepreneurs is extremely valuable. I would caution to say, like, at the end of the day, the title of Endeavor Entrepreneur, had it been bestowed upon me back then when I was running Be Malas, would have been a lot more valuable to me than being MD, because that shows that you've been sort of accredited by a global brand, right?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, but do you guys feel that what you're doing is succeeding? Before I move on to the second question.
I mean, obviously the biggest success story we have is Carson being a unicorn, right? So we've seen Eric from the days of sort of growing, exponentially, but still having that sort of market fit in terms of scaling, in terms of introducing new products into what Carson was trying to do. In fact, Endeavor also joined their previous round, or is it the previous? They raised quite a few rounds, right? So either the previous round or the round before that, and Endeavor Catalyst, which is our VC arm based in San Fran, invested together with the investors in that round into Qasim. So that's how much Endeavor believed in Qasim's model and Eric as a founder. So yes, so Endeavor now bets not just in terms of giving it back, as what Gokula rightfully mentioned. if you're an Endeavor entrepreneur, if you're given that title, Endeavor entrepreneur, Endeavor actually also invests into your company to also give you that lifeblood to continue to grow. So we've seen.
So I didn't know that if you are acknowledged as an Endeavor entrepreneur, there is funding that comes with it automatically. I thought the funding is still dependent on you meeting, the investment committee or that. No, it's automatic lah.
I mean, I wouldn't say automatic lah, right? So the idea is this, right? So long as the lead investor is an accredited investor, meaning the lead investor is someone that is a VC institutional firm that's well known, right? It's not your mom and dad leading the round, to be honest, right? So if it's an accredited VC firm, Endeavor will never lead the round. We will follow that round and we will invest together with the accredited investors. Yeah.
Wow, that's good to know. I didn't know that. Okay, great. So now this comes to the point that so Kasam is your biggest success story so far, and they were in your first cohort or program. Now you're doing your second lah. Whether you want to call it cohort or what. So I know that you don't call it an accelerator because accelerators typically will take a small stake and they guaranteed will invest. So if you're these 8 fellows who are these 8 companies that are in now, doesn't mean that you're going to invest in all of them, right? Because they may not end up being Endeavor entrepreneur, correct?
Okay, so just to rewind, right? So there are 2 tracks to Endeavor. Endeavor entrepreneur track, which are businesses above a certain scale, which Kasam was, and then the ones between the 2 to 6 million ringgit revenue range, which falls under the scale up track, which is what we're doing or we're launching now. So because we realized, right, Malaysia. Okay, let me rewind back, Karam. In 2015, guess what? Back then, seed money easily you can find anywhere. You throw a stone and you raise money. Series A, Series B, I was telling you this even up to today, at that time, is very, very hard to find Series A, Series B. Today, it's the inverse. You can find Series A, Series B, Penjana has done a good job, you've plugged that gap, where has the seed gone? Right? So the seed has dried up. So even Cradle now has moved on to, I think, the 800,000 ringgit range and the DQ 300. I'm not so sure about that one, but it's no longer, I bring you a PowerPoint slide, I'll give you a grant of 150 or 300,000. So there has to be some traction, right? So what we've realized is if we bring this, or at least if we leave this gap for too long, we're going to have problems of finding new entrepreneurs that would fit the Endeavor entrepreneur track, the ones which are sizable, which can be a global, high impact entrepreneur that impacts the economy in a very large scale. So we decided to do the scale up program for the second time. It's not the second; it's a second year, but not back to back. The first one was 2 years ago.
Correct.
To look at this particular problem set, right? So that revenue, meaning you have product market fit. So with product market fit, then we will then put in the mentors that will then really find a way to accelerate your business. So that term we use is blitz scaling. It's not a term that is invented by us. It was invented by Reid Hoffman and a guy named Chris Ye, which interesting enough, Karam, Chris Ye will be doing the keynote speech launch for us. So Chris Ye himself, the guy who authored blitz scaling with Reid Hoffman, will be doing that for our Malaysian entrepreneurs, right? So it's about scaling at a speed that will give you that benefit of being either first to market or the first to grab that market before anybody else.
Okay. Understood. So great. Thanks for explaining that. Now let's move on to. So I had a sub question about the metrics you use assessing a company. So it's very simple that they've got to be in the 2 to 6 million. But besides that, you also said that you want to pick companies that are ready to want to grow faster. So just because an entrepreneur is making 2 to 6 million ringgit a year, it doesn't mean that he or she ticks the box that they want to grow faster, right? So you also look at the mindset and the hunger of the entrepreneur, correct? Because sometimes it may be lacking, or sometimes it may not be. They may have a more measured pace also, right? And you just got to go with that, correct?
Correct. So we have this I call it personally the triangle or triumvirate, right? So it's the timing, the entrepreneur, and the business, right? So if these 3 fit, if, for example, the entrepreneur, in the case of Gokula, he may not be doing that 2 to 6 million revenue yet, right?
Yeah, of course.
No, but he is a sterling entrepreneur, right? So we know he's got the right business model. He is at the very least far enough ahead of any other potential competitors, and he's about to close his funding round, or if he's close. So we know that when you balance all these metrics, at the end of the day, the true north for us is still the entrepreneur. So if the entrepreneur is mentorable, the entrepreneur has that grit and the ability to punch through their weight and be able to scale despite all the other circumstances that may be dragging them down, whether it's market forces, whether it's lack of employees, lack of money. But they have that ability, like what you heard Gokula say, right? So no matter what, I'm in it, I might as well just try my best to win it, right? So that's the main sort of core that we require before we select you.
Okay, fine, great. That hasn't changed anywhere then. They look at the person or the team, right? Okay. So my third question is, look, is there a social or society impact to Scale Up Endeavor?
This time around, yes. So the Scale Up Endeavor program has 8 that we've chosen. So that's the one that I think you published. But there's another few companies that we didn't announce yet because that's in partnership with Khazanah. So Khazanah and Endeavor came together. Khazanah had an intention to sort of focus on a very specific problem set, which is the aged care, because in the next 20, 30 years, there will be a large aging population in Malaysia, and they needed to look at the impact. me. Karam, you'll be a cyborg by then. You've got, like robotic arms in 30, 40 years.
It's coming.
Right?
It's coming.
So they've decided to look at this problem set today, right? And they wanted to work with us because we put in a very stringent methodology to filter through which are the best companies that has the highest chance to succeed, right? Because we use a global methodology and it's been proven over the past 20 over years. So you'll hear this announcement, I think, hopefully by next week. And then these additional, 6 or 7 or 8, companies, I wouldn't say the right number because I think I wouldn't announce it until they do, will then be part of this scale-up program, and they will be able to have then this double bottom line, right? So the one that's looking at the purebred thorough scaling of our Endeavor Blitz scaling methodology, as well as the social impact side, which is the Khazanah Innovation Impact Program.
Okay. Fantastic, man. Really excited. And I hope that they will, you read about it on DNA first before anywhere else.
Yes.
Oh, such a hint, lah, Karam.
As it always has been, lah, Karam.
Okay, sorry. Okay, look, from a point of policy then, because, a lot of entrepreneurs normally don't like policy because and in fact, sometimes the existing policy is godsend for them because everybody's following the policy in the brick and mortar world. Here you come like grab and say, screw the policy, and it doesn't work in the digital world. I'm going to just go ahead and do my stuff and then work to policy to catch up with you. But from your perspective, does Endeavor Malaysia feel there's any policy that needs to be killed, or there's a policy that should be introduced to accelerate the growth of our entrepreneurs?
I think there are two things. So the one main one is in the hiring of foreign talent, right? So let's be very clear, right? Forget about having to, that's the second point, having to move to Singapore, which I'll also highlight, right? So usually having to move to Singapore is access to capital and also access to talent, right? And as much as, I know, Karam, you know me. I'm not going to say it publicly, but you know what I feel, right? So it's a shame. I don't think this brain drain should continue to happen. No, but what choice do we have? I can rewind back to 2015, right? So in 2015, I had an American head of investments that joined me straight from the US. She came in. She's a young girl. She came and joined me, but she never got her. She could never get the proper work visa, right? So she left after 6 months, right? And I couldn't hire good foreign talent in specific needs. If I wanted to hire in 2015 someone who knew investments with VCs in the US, I can't hire a Malaysian at that time, 2015. They don't know these guys. Right? Similarly, today, if you want to hire someone in data analytics, hardcore deep tech stuff, I'm not trying to say they are not Malaysians. They probably are, but how many are there? And if you need to hire 3, 4, 5 a guy and a CTO or CIO on top that has 10, 15 years experience from Amazon or from, your Walgreens, Walmarts of the world that's gone into deep tech in terms of, customer management, you don't have it, right? You have to hire foreign. It's extremely hard for us to get this talent today. And I'm hearing it from entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you heard it, or you will hear it from Gokula as well. When you need to hire foreigners, it's still tricky. That's one. Number two is another reason why we are forced to move up is capital or access, not access to capital, but the ability for us to raise funds. Because I don't know whether you've done this before, Karam, but when you raise foreign money, right, and I did it, right? When I raised foreign money in 2015, it's not any easier now. The money was stuck in the bank for 4 weeks, bro.
Wow.
Because Bank Negara had to check whether or not the money is legit and not. In 4 weeks, if you're talking about someone who's raising $500,000, okay, you can still sort of, eke up road and move on because you're still probably paying 10, 15,000 a month to have 20 guys, right? Everybody's just eating ramen. But if you raise $100 million, the $100 million, I'm sure a big chunk of it is going to either buy companies that you've signed term sheets for, invest in equipment, machinery. You can't wait 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? It's something that we need to really work on, right? I mean, assuming that you've got accredited investors like a Sequoia or Tiger Global, and these are proper names. Bank Negara knows this, right? Come on, guys. I mean, you see these guys. Let it go. Maybe hold back a few of the names you've never heard of before. Do your KYC on these guys, and then the bulk of it you can release.
Fair. Very key point. Very good point. Okay. So are you all going to be lobbying more differently, because I don't know, you all are not known as a body that lobbies also, right, for regulation. But is this something that you want to take on and expanding your involvement in the ecosystem, which would be great if you do?
I mean, yeah, I think it's important for not just Endeavor, right? We have entrepreneurs that would love to have this open table conversation with regulators, right? And it's only a matter of time before we become over-regulated, right? You want to regulate everything if you can, right? And I think regulation should be there to stop people from taking money from people on the street and squandering it. That one I agree. But not the inverse. You shouldn't stop people from having money to build business and give money back to people on the street, right? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Good. So you see the perspective from an entrepreneur who was from somebody who's an entrepreneur before and who has taken money. Very different. If you're just a professional manager coming in, he wouldn't be able to give the nuances and the insights that he shared now. So great.
Yeah, exactly. And also, it's interesting that you mentioned about that the foreign talent thing as well, because it got me thinking, like, if you want to stop the brain drain, you got to allow the brain to develop here as well in the first place, right? And if you don't have the avenues to do that, or you don't have the people to actually teach, and you're very right, you mentioned like deep tech. A lot of companies here are talking about deep tech, but you're also right. Who knows? Who knows how to do it over here? So you got to get people in, and you got to allow that to happen a bit more easier, at least the initial stage. So you're right with the whole regulation has to assist, but not be something that is a stumbling block to entrepreneurs as well. So I think let's do this right now. Let's bring in Gokula back into the picture, because I think there's two parts or two questions we kind of want to ask you guys. One of it was this heated discussion with the same color shirt that Karam is wearing right now. Sorry, Karam, your shirt is just the star today.
My shirt, my pants are also red, okay? Pants
oh my God.
I'm going
for a minute.
Actual mode.
For a minute there, when Karam got up and I saw the pants, I'm like, don't tell me he's wearing boxers, lah. Okay, so
Nautica,
okay. So this question is actually about that pick of the week. You guys were actually talking about this, and you had a bit different perspective of this as well. That whole story about MDEC and how it's moving with the whole Digital 5 Investment Future 5 strategy. There's something both of y'all were talking about. It's rather interesting, right? So what are your thoughts about this? Maybe Gokula, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is we've had way too many policies and strategies over the last few years, which, we don't see the daylight of the execution, right? As an entrepreneur, my wish list is for these policymakers to come back and say, okay, what are the 5 barriers I can remove to make sure the ecosystem and industry grows on its own? Because at the end of the day, let's face it, right? If the environment is conducive, the ecosystem will flourish. Because at the end of the day, let's face it, people are smart. Malaysians are smart.
Yeah.
Right? For example, I have this ambition. I want to build a world-class startup headquartered in Malaysia. Now, for that, I need world-class talent. Adlin just shared the challenges of bringing world-class talent. We are facing that problem right now. 3 months. MDEC can't move it, right? So don't talk about all this Future 5 strategy. It's nice on paper. I think the ecosystem can find what's right for the country. Just remove 5 barriers. That's my answer, right? And I think if you call all key entrepreneurs into a chat, you will sort of figure out what these 5 barriers are. And I think Adlin's already mentioned a few.
Right? And Adlin, your thought about this?
I'm trying to see whether I don't just, do a Karam here. I'm very concerned. I'm trying to measure my words.
Do a Afzal. That's worse.
We were just talking about Afzal just now.
Okay, so a few things, right? So mainly all these fancy jargons, right? Why did you come up with these 5 things? 50, was it 50 Fortune 500 companies in 4 years? That's 50 Petronases in 4 years. I think that's insane. That's an insanely high target to achieve. How does that impact entrepreneurs? Really? If you bring in an Amazon and a Walmart and you name it, right? What are the other guys? 2 guys flew to space, right? Virgin, whoever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Into Malaysia. Okay, they'll hire 1 or 2, senior guys, and maybe the rest of the guys are going to be like, low income staff, and not really improving their quality of life, right? If you open an Amazon here and you open a warehouse sorting place somewhere in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to hire 50 or 100 executive level staff being paid 50,000, 60,000, as what I think Karam rightfully mentioned, very high income or high paid employees. They're still going to go down because Malaysia is going to be a near or outsourced region for them, right? So are we creating the right sort of jobs for the future? So that's one, right? So we should look at that, right? How do we create high quality jobs? By creating better Malaysian companies. Because Malaysian companies, I'm not saying all Malaysian companies are altruistic, but the odds are you will not be so inclined to step on our fellow Malaysians as easily as a foreign company would, because they're looking at us as a way to dump cheaper prices and more users at an averaged cost, right? So Malaysia, okay, Malaysia's mahal, then I'll go to Vietnam. If Vietnam mahal, I'll go to Myanmar, so on and so forth. That's what they do, right? That's why BPOs do so well in the Philippines, right? In India, right? Because they're cheaper in cost arbitrage than anywhere else. So what is the real reason? 50 Fortune 500 companies for what? What are we bringing them here for? What kind of industries are we looking at to expand, right? So if you're looking at Malaysia being the startup hub, which we've been trying to say we're going to be doing for the past 5-10 years, why have we been missing the boat to, okay, forget about Singapore, but why is Vietnam now moving at a pace that is probably double the pace we were doing 2-3 years ago, right? It's because it's easier for them to come in and invest, right? Less regimented structures, foreign ownership is easily available there. You can hire foreign talent, no problem. You can come in with them together and be a foreign-owned company. All these things are what we should be looking at. I'm not saying, at the end of the day, we're worried, right? Oh, if we let a foreigner own Malaysia, then we are dijajah, right? Oh, Malaysians don't own this company anymore. So what will that do to Malaysians? Will we get a job still? I'm sure you will. They cannot hire everybody foreign anyway. They will still hire Malaysians. And guess what happens after that? This is the thing that's missing, right? When I work for, let's say, a local chapter of Amazon, and I'm the MD of Amazon Malaysia, and I leave and I do my startup, guess what? It's very easy for me to get funded. What do you? Then it's a virtuous cycle you create because you carry that brand. That's what we need to do.
All right.
That's me trying to hold back, right? So I will not say anymore.
I can see. You're like, there's more wanting to come out, but you're like, okay, I have to be politically correct at the moment. I don't want to do an upsell in this show at the moment. So
sorry. I put back Aziz. I think Kevin Aziz had a comment about. I think this for you, Adlin. I think when he meant scale up, probably he meant scale up Malaysia, right? So Scale Up Endeavor is a global brand. So I'm familiar with Scale Up Malaysia. By no means were we trying to use a brand that would confuse Malaysians, primarily because we're using the same global branding and we transmit it here in Malaysia. So yes, completely understand the confusion, but we focus on different things, right? So Scale Up Endeavor does not take any equity. We essentially help companies to accelerate their growth over 24 months. And the reason why it's 24 months is because we actually have a steering committee that advises us. So steering committee is formed of very senior business leaders and entrepreneurs that tell us why you do a 6 months or 12 months accelerator. What can someone like Gokula do in 6 months? Let's be real here. But in 2 years, we can do a lot together. Gokula wants to go to Indonesia. Okay, he's not going to go to Indonesia next month, and then in 6 months, he's going to be a billionaire. It takes time. Right, regulation issues, hiring issues, how to build a tech there. Do I then give shares or ESOP to my local co-founder in Indonesia? Who will advise me there? Who's going to advise me on the legal jargons in Indonesia or Vietnam or Philippines? That's where we come in, right? And that takes time.
Yep. And I think Gokula is Gika and Vin's story is a testament to that as well. It takes some time to get things going. It just needs a lot of resilience. You wanted to say something?
No. There is no equity taken, right? So just so Aziz, you guys don't take, but there's the lure of becoming the endeavor entrepreneur, where then if you attract funding, this is an automatic then follow on round, which is fantastic and easier for you to go to investors also. Then there's cashier to saying I'm an endeavor entrepreneur. Say, hey, oh really? Okay, I didn't understand what Gokula is trying to do, but I think I got to pay attention. Can somebody please listen to him now? Because I think he deserves to be listened to, and it gets you their attention, right? And they listen to you carefully because they know there's endeavor, waiting to also invest if they put in their money first. And that's a beautiful thing, man. Like Donald Trump would say, called limited vocabulary, right? That's a beautiful thing.
Bad impression, lah. Bad impression. Sorry, Tajalan. Gokula, you had something that you wanted to add in.
No. I think as Karam put it right. So what Endeavor brings is very different than what a typical accelerator brings. And I think for companies like us, we've done the accelerator piece, right? We've got our own sort of history charted from an investment piece. What we need now is to meet the right entrepreneurs to go into hyperscale or blitzscale, and that's something that nobody can bring as best as the mentors from Endeavor can, because they've been through that. And once we go through the journey, it's in our interest to keep the cycle going and contribute back, right? Because that's how we build the whole ecosystem, right? Yeah.
And I think one key thing here is that I always like to look at this from who is the end user of anything that comes out, because business is business. That's one thing, but ultimately business are there to solve problems out. And if chances are not given or chances are not there, like example, Vircle, what Vircle is doing right now is a pain point that needs to be solved. And if they don't get the opportunities, or they don't get the support, or there's they don't later on give back into the community to help back again, you're never going to see all these great things come out to people. And that's how society moves forward. And we got to kind of wrap up the show, but Karam, you actually had one question you wanted to ask both of them, and you kind of mentioned it.
They kind of answered it already with Qasim, so maybe not necessarily, because we're already at the 55-minute mark, right?
All right, great thing then. All right. So on that note, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for the show. Thank you, Gokula. Thank you, Adlin. And of course, Karam in his red shirt, all ready to go to get his vaccine. I think he's already, he wants to show his style.
Hey, you can
red shirt, pink pants.
I'm going to tell them, setengah sini, so the vial goes
Hey, make sure there's vaccine
wait.
inside.
If you jab here last time, and you jab here this time, then you tak dapat no. You must jab same place.
Oh, yes, sir.
I'm just joking.
Don't freak me out. I'm going to cancel. I still need to do my research.
Karam, make sure that it's Sinovac, not Sinovac, because make sure you got vaccine inside.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I had to pull that joke. But anyways, also I want to quickly mention to everybody, this is something we've been doing a while. Actually, it's bearing fruit. We're about to actually do some initiatives around this as well. It's the SME survey that we've been doing for a while, because we're trying to understand what are the problems for small, medium enterprises out there that they're facing right now, especially since they had to transform. It's part of this campaign that the Necole team as a whole has been doing, a Make a Shift campaign. And the whole reason is, if we understand, we know what we can help. We know what we can do to connect people. We know what we can do to bring services that are out there. And a lot of you out there have been answering. We've been getting some really good data. We've been finding great opportunities to bring solutions to the market for the small, medium enterprises. So I want to highlight that again. Any SMEs or any SME entrepreneurs who are out there who are watching this, there's a link there. Just go over, answer some few questions. It gives us good data points. It gives us an understanding where or what we can bring to the market to help. And also in future, if we can piece this together and give you an outlook, that'll be another great thing we can do. So go ahead to that link right there. You see it. It's a tiny URL a link for Necole survey. And of course, a plug. If you want to find out for your organization what Necole can do for you, drop by necole.tech and book a session with us, and we'll give you a call and we'll have a chat. All right. And don't forget your news on Digital News Asia. And Karam just promised that he's digesting this 2,500 worded reply or response from MDEC. So after he digests it, either this weekend or Monday, he's going to release his thoughts on it when he's not so angry and probably wearing a green shirt where he's Zen on the mountain kind of thing. All right. So watch out for that news and many more tech news at Digital News Asia. So drop by. And also not to forget, there's also the links to both Gokula's site and also to Adlin from Vircle and also from Endeavor, to actually find out what they are doing as well. And if you see any opportunities to actually work with them, or if, like say in Gokula's end, it is something or a solution that's coming out of the market that is going to be really interesting to you, your school, or your kids, great, get in contact with them. So on that note, thank you so much. Oh, wait, one thing is there are some questions that were in the chat. So if we didn't get a chance to answer all those questions, don't worry. What we will do is we'll try to link them back to Gokula and also Adlin to actually answer you guys. So thank you so much for being part of the show, everybody, whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. It was wonderful having you with us on this Friday. So take care, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. And most importantly, right now, please stay safe. Don't take anything for granted. Get yourself vaccinated. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.